So something very different now. We're gonna shoot this space as if I was hired by the interior designer. So now, the emphasis won't be so much on the scope of the space or the grand scale of the space, but really the elements that are within the space. Granted, some interior designers do want those big and wide shots as well. But since we are showcasing in these photos now some of the things and the elements that really make up the room and give it personality, we're gonna shoot this quite a bit different. So the first thing I know right off the bat that I'm gonna do to kind of show off a hero shot of this space, as if I was hired directly by an interior designer, is I'm gonna shoot this space vertical. If it wasn't for these lights, I would probably be shooting the space horizontal for an interior design client. But the reason being is I know these light fixtures are not cheap. There was a lot of thought that was put into them to match the style of the house. So to not only show off the lights, I want to shoot vertical. If you caught kind of the mantle area above the fireplace, there's a lot of vertical lines. Again, one of these elements of a space that a lot of thought was put into, so we need to show that off. Since a majority of the light is coming from the front door and it's coming from this space or from this side of the house, I want to shoot into the light. So here's what I'm gonna do. Since we really want to show off the mood, I'm actually going to be shooting more from this angle, and we'll set up the camera to really kind of lock in that composition, because I think especially for an interior design client, we really have to think about composition, because now instead of just shooting a big gigantic space, now we're showing off the different elements within that space. So we have to be aware of how much are we showing in it? Is there too much? Is it too busy? Is it too bland? So basically, rule number one for me when I'm shooting for an interior design client, or say a stager, somebody of that nature, is whatever I'm shooting, I want everything within the frame to be of interest. I try to get rid of any blank space as much as possible. I want that composition to tell a story. I know that sounds cheesy, but if you're an interior designer, I think you'll agree with that 100%. If an interior designer is putting weeks, months, sometimes years of work into a space, they really want to showcase that off in the photos that they are using to document their work. Okay, so I'm gonna actually set up the camera and tinker with the composition here. I think I have a pretty good idea of what I want, but I'm gonna take some exposures and again, walk you through my thought process and see what I like, because I'm not 100% sure what I want to do as far as, say, height of the camera. My gut's telling me I'm probably gonna have to tilt up, and since I don't feel like swapping out my tilt shift at the moment because I'm lazy, I'm gonna rely heavily upon the ultra high resolution of this camera. So although I will lose a little bit in the frame when I stretch out the vertical lines, it's not gonna be that big of an issue because the sizes of these files are huge. I think long ways, it's almost 10,000 pixels wide. Yes, I know it's overkill, but in this case, it's gonna allow me to crop some elements out without losing any sharpness whatsoever. So I think first and foremost, what I wanna do is I don't need the camera this high. I'm gonna bring it down a bit, and I think I may even bring it down a little bit more. So I think we're about at stomach level. I'm gonna flip the camera over vertically. I'm pretty sure I wanna shoot this at 24 millimeters. Let me walk you through what I'm thinking here. Okay, so here is just a preliminary shot. It's not bad per se. It's not my favorite. Okay, I think first and foremost what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna physically move the camera a little bit to the left here. And the reason being is the overhead light that is closest to the fireplace, it looks a little weird that the edge of the light is right on the edge of that black accent wall. And I'd rather have it, that light surrounded a little bit more. All right, let's try that. Ooh, we're in a bind. Because now the more I physically move the camera to the left, obviously we're introducing the kitchen counter into the space. One of the big issues is based off the lens. I'm gonna swap this out for my 24 to 70 because I think, as much as I'm okay with this shot, I don't like being okay, and here's why. We're still getting a little bit of that wide angle type of shot. As you can see, the orange brownish chairs, they are significantly bigger than the elements in the background, say those little stools right by the fireplace. Yeah, there might not be too much I can do with that, but there is a little bit I can do to try to fix it. So I might throw on my 24-70 and maybe shoot this at 30, 40, maybe even 50 millimeters. Let's swap out the lens and see what that does. Okay, so we're gonna scoot the camera back even more, and that being said, I'm gonna scoot this back a little bit more. I think I might raise the camera up just so a lot of the pieces of the furniture aren't overlapping each other too much. So here's what I'm thinking. I told you I was gonna let you in on what I'm thinking out loud. So obviously, let's say this is the ring of that light, and this was the wall. It just seems awkward to me if it was right at the edge of it. So I gotta do either one of two things. I either want that ring surrounded by the black wall a little bit more altogether, or have it kind of stick out from the black wall a little bit. I don't think I can get the one because I'm gonna have to start messing with the counter. So I think what I'm gonna do is actually have the light fixture stick out a little bit from the black wall. So that means actually moving the camera back to the right and maybe even a little bit more to the right than I had originally had it set. Okay, let's see what this looks like. That's better. First thing I noticed is we got rid of a lot of that wide angle look. The chairs now, the orange chairs look a little bit more even to scale in comparison to the rest of the furniture. As you can see on the right side of the frame, the curtains are showing up and we're getting a little bit of counter that's peeping through on the left side of the frame. As I'm thinking out loud, my end goal, I'm guesstimating I'm probably gonna turn this into about an 8x10 proportion. So I'm gonna crop out probably a little bit from the top, but I think I'm also gonna crop out a lot from the bottom. So again, since these image files are really, really big, I'm not too concerned about cropping in because I'm not gonna lose any sharpness whatsoever. You guys are actually getting a peek into the realistic thought process here. I'm not loving this photo, and I'm trying to figure out why. Okay, change of plans, big change of plans. We're shooting at a different angle. Okay, so we're back over here. As I was thinking out loud, I mentioned it before, is that when I was shooting from that angle, I wanted to crop out the curtains. And then it hit me. Why am I cropping out the curtains? Because the curtains themselves are part of the design. There was a lot of thought that was put into it. There was a choice to put those curtains there. The other problem I was having from the other angles is it just seemed too bland. I was mentioning when I shoot a photo, I want the composition to really, I want the things in the photo to really fill the frame well. The frame just wasn't being filled out well from that angle. Now, this might seem a little redundant because we are shooting from a similar angle than we did before. We're shooting for the builder and especially for real estate. But I think as I set up this shot, you'll see that it's a little bit more of interest than from the other angle. Here, I'll show you. Okay, I like this one 100 times more. And don't ask me why. I have a hard time articulating things like that. But I think it just looks so much better. I still think there's a good chance that I'm probably gonna crop this a little bit from the top and bottom to give it, or at least pretty close to an 8x10-ish proportion. I still wanna show off a little bit of the floor. Again, I'm sure that was a design choice, but I don't need to show off this much floor. Okay, so we finally got the shot, we got the composition, let's start shooting. So when it comes to shooting for an interior designer, I think interior designers are a little bit more concerned with the atmosphere, the mood, and the feel of a space. Because we are getting pretty even lighting coming from opposite directions, we're losing a little bit of that. So I'm going to do similar to what I did in the past video, but instead of, say, blocking a lot of light, I'm just going to lessen the ambient light altogether and then using my softbox, emphasize more light coming from one direction, which again, in this case, will be coming from the front door. So let's take some different exposures. I'm gonna light up different elements, again, to really bring out the detail. First off, I wanna make sure everything's in tack sharp focus. And then, yeah, we'll take it from there. I think I'm going to use the one stop underexposed as my base and then emphasize or kind of mimic natural light coming from the front door area. All right, let's do it. All right, I think that's all I'm gonna do for this one. Since I'm going for more of that moody natural light feel, I don't wanna do any exposures with the lights on. You're still able to see the lights themselves. Now, that being said, I will add a footnote. A lot of designers do put quite a bit of emphasis on the lighting. Some put a ton of emphasis on it. So sometimes the best way to show it off is actually to take photos during night or around twilight. So that being said, obviously you're not going to be able to rely on natural light. You just got to go 100% off the ambient light. And sometimes that's even easier to shoot, but that's a footnote. So guys, hopefully that helps to give you a little bit peek behind the curtain as far as my thought process on if I was hired with these different types of clients, that you don't always shoot the same space the same exact way for every single type of client. There's little idiosyncrasies and little things to taste and that you have to account for. Again, is this the end all be all? This is the way you have to do it if you were hired by XYZ type of client? Absolutely not. I think these are just kind of some of the go-to default bullet points I personally think of when I'm hired by these different types of clients. So they may work for you, they may not work for you. But if you got a question or anything, feel free to message me, say over Instagram, or leave a comment below and I'll be sure to respond to it. Again, I sincerely thank you guys for taking the time to watch. And yeah, that'll conclude for this shoot. We'll see you on the next one.